was optimistic in September, but by October I was out of the loft. And I remember a wise man once told me that all hope can never be lost, 'cause a blind squirrel finds its own acorn every once in a little while. So you gotta keep smiling. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight. Brosuv Fantasy, yeah, you know it's gonna be alright. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brosuv Fantasy Football Podcast. It is May 27th, 2020, the year of our Lord, and we have a special show for you tonight, our first Meet the League segment. And as always, just want to point out before we start, Brosuv Fantasy Football Podcast is a free-flowing conversation that may touch on sensitive subjects. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. And I'd love to get a word in for our sponsor here, Wallace Wheezy's. Now, Wallace Wheezy is a really interesting company out here near where we record in Pittsburgh. Wallace Wheezy makes unique household items made strictly from salvaged and recycled metal. Whether it's a lamp, a coffee table, or a tobacco pipe, Wallace Wheezy makes salvaged metal products that are unique and ethically sourced. And they're made to order as well. So if you want to be the talk of your neighborhood, hit up Wallace Wheezy's Salvage Metal Works. You're going to find something that's going to make your home unique. And it'll be, like I said, talk to the neighborhood. And of course, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Ryan Ghilani, is with us today. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Connor. Glad to be here. Episode number 2. Super psyched.
And Ryan Hartz, welcome.
Thanks, Connor. How's that going, everyone? Let's get this.
Great to be here. And our special guest this week is none other than the third commissioner of BFFL, Ryan Honhart. Ryan is without a doubt the most decorated player in BFFL history with 3 titles. Often a towering figure in the league, his football intellect and ruthless competitiveness have forever altered the face of Brosuv Fantasy Football. Welcome, Ryan Honhart.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here. I felt like we got some things to talk about, so let's get going.
Absolutely. And since we have 3 Ryans on the pod, we'll refer to them all by their last names for the sake of clarity, of course. And Hani, you kind of touched on it. Let's dive right into it. Your name was spoken a lot last week. Some folks questioning your place in the hierarchy of this league. You were the target of a lot of allegations, quite honestly. And I just wanted to, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, wanted to give you a chance to just say what you wanted to say to the viewing public about what was said about you last week.
The results kind of speak for themselves, although they haven't always resulted in championships. I mean, if you look back over the last couple of years, even though I didn't make the playoffs this year, I had a rough schedule, second in points, only behind Pat by 20 or 30 points, highest points against by about 100 points. Last year, second place, lost to Pat, number 1 seed. Year before that, third place, number 1 seed. I mean, proof's in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, even go back a year before, put that asterisk up.
It's interesting that you've claimed those high of finishes. I just tallied the results of the last 5 years, and I have you in 9th place with a record of 31 and 34 over the last 5 seasons, 3 games under 500. How do you account for that?
I can't tell you. I think the result is, like Hartz alluded to in previous episode, get to the playoffs, make a run. That's all you got to do. I mean, unfortunately, there's the number 1 seed curse. Never won a title. I mean, it's taken me down 2 years. It took me down 2 years in a row. And as far back as I can remember, every time I haven't made the playoffs, fucking Ryan Hartz has won a championship.
I didn't know that, but I like that.
That's one of the reasons I root for you, Hani, to be honest.
That might be my new goal. Might just be trying to make sure Honhart doesn't make the playoffs. Guarantee myself a win.
If you look at the 2019 season, let's rattle off a couple statistics here on our champion.
Real quick though.
Yeah.
You tried dropping you got the the first seed jinx. I don't think that's necessarily true because I think
I don't know if it's a jinx.
Pat 2 years ago actually won on the number one
high
seed.
Points. He was high points.
He wasn't number one seed. I wish we had the history to combat that, but we don't. So
Me too. Yeah.
sorry
I really
then.
wish we
Hey,
would.
then forgive me. We'll move on. Honey, back to you.
So what I was alluding to,
Back to you.
Ryan Hartz, championship season, 97.4 points per game score. Points against, 107.2. That's 9.7 points against more than you fucking score, and you still won a fucking championship. You're the only person in the top 7 with a negative point differential. And the only person with a bigger point differential is in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen here. Ryan Ghilani.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a
love
rough
that.
season
I love that
last
stat.
year.
Love that.
Last
Wow.
season was my worst fantasy season of any sport ever. I'm not going to hide from it. It was a really horrible
was bad.
season, marred by injury, but that's not an excuse. I still was decently close, a couple wins here and there.
I think my favorite part of the season was when you scored your high points of the year, and then I just fucking decimated you still by like 40 points, and I even had a bench player playing.
Yeah, that was a
Did you have
tough
a
year for me.
bench player score more points than he had total in one round? Probably.
Will Fuller, possibly.
I feel like you had a couple weeks where you were probably lowest all time by far.
I never was the
weekly total.
lowest all-time weekly total. Never. Not.
No,
I was not.
Man. Just
Fact.
last year,
Never.
there were some bad.
I mean,
bad weeks.
The
But I
divisions
also
were
had
terrible.
They were.
I'll just
I
say
also
that
had a few
flat out.
100-point games though. My team either scored 110 points or 50 points last year. It was just brutal.
Last year we had that was the first year we went to the new divisions though, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Well,
the new
Honhart-
divisions were great.
Honhart, what do you not like about those new divisions there?
Let's not be wrong. I love
I feel like you got the
spirit
easiest,
of the division.
You got the
You
easiest
think I had
division
the
of all
easiest
of them.
division? Pat, I don't know where the fuck Pat came out at the last 2 years.
What, for
But-
2 years, right?
Like,
Good point.
I don't understand it. Like, Pat, 117.2 points a game this year. That's the highest. 2 points, 2 years in a row, high points. I mean,
Yep.
To hear him tell it, it's by doing absolutely no research and drinking a bunch of beer at the draft. That's to hear him tell it. He says he does no research, and
he will tell you that.
he's been a top 2 competitor the last couple of years.
but he
Last
came out of
5 years.
nowhere.
Brandon
He
Cup.
came out of nowhere.
Last 5 years, Pat has a 32-33 record, and that's with 2 straight seasons where he was top point scorer.
Top,
So
yeah.
imagine
He
how bad he was in the
Yeah.
prior 3.
He was an afterthought,
Right.
a total afterthought.
Yeah.
But I don't want to let Ghilani and Hartz off the hook here because you both talked a lot of smack on Hani. So what he's saying is last year he was one of the top points scored teams, and 2 years prior he was 2 of the 3 years prior he was in a championship. Ended up losing the championship, of course. So when we're saying Hani's place in this league is no longer what it used to be, he's saying that the stats don't bear out. So where's the disconnect there? What do you have to say to that?
Let me say one thing before they speak. And
Okay.
and I think a lot of the thing is, yeah, I won my championships a long time ago, I'll call it. It is what it is. Asterisk year was the last year. And that was a wing and a prayer with the fucking Denver Broncos interception. But I will say the competitiveness of the league has picked up in the last couple of years, which has driven up
I would
lot
agree.
of the the
I would
factor.
agree.
So I think it's a lot. The availability of all the media, I think, has made it easier for some people to kind of skate by.
I'd have to agree with that.
That's an
yeah.
interesting point, and I agree with that. I think the competitiveness of the league has gone up substantially. I think the research and you could see the preparedness. I mean, Andrew shows up with a fucking book of papers this big to every draft and never was before. So I definitely agree with that. I think a little bit of the disconnect is the past few years. I feel like Honhart has been a little bit hesitant to make that trade. In recent or in past years, trading has been what has won him the championships. We all have talked about the 0-6 season that he turned around to win the championship, and that was a result of a trade rape, if you will.
Someone may say,
But
It
taking
was
advantage.
legitimate.
taking advantage of the
some may say it
end.
was. Most will say it was not. But 31 and 34 over the past 5 seasons, that's pretty bad. That's what I have as well over the past 5 seasons, so I can't really speak,
I think I
too
got a
poorly
second
of that
last
record.
place in there too. I think I got an 11th place season in there.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a 12th in there last season, but I also have a win in that.
I mean,
last
I
five
think
where
if
you don't,
those
so.
5-year totals show anything, it's that the 5-year total doesn't mean squat.
It doesn't mean
3 of the
it doesn't mean
5
everything.
champions are in the bottom third of that. I mean,
It doesn't mean everything.
it doesn't mean anything.
That means
It
those
doesn't mean
championships were won by good adjustments for the
No.
most part, I would say.
What it means is it goes back to Honhart calling me out for season average totals. It doesn't really necessarily mean it. Only thing that matters is getting into the playoffs and performing in the playoffs. Yeah, you're taking your stats and your wins and losses are full seasons, right? His points totals are full seasons. The problem with that is that that's not really what matters. Yeah, it matters. You have to be good within the regular season to make the playoffs. But all you have to do is make the playoffs. You have to be an average team, a little bit better than average team to make the playoffs, and that's all you have to do. Once you get in the playoffs, your team can do. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, you can speak to that better than anyone else because you were 9th in points for last year.
I'll agree.
9th in points for, and you won the league.
But what Hartz does well, and what I did when I won, and what most people that have won the league have done, is they've won a trade in week 7, 8, 9, right before the playoffs. They were maybe a fringe team that might have made it, might have not, and they made a really good trade at a really crucial time and turned their team around at the end of the year. And that's not going to be reflected in the overall year.
Not me last year.
You're right. You lose every trade you make, but somehow still works out.
I didn't make a big trade. I was active on picking the right people up throughout the year. I paid attention and picked up some key players along the way. That and Saquon Barkley came back healthy at the right time. He was my number 1 pick. He didn't play for the last 3 weeks, and then playoffs came and he destroyed. I don't know.
The second most moves in the league.
I can't double check that.
Yep.
It made a lot of moves.
40 moves.
Moves includes your roster, add drops and stuff like that. So,
but that's exactly it. You have to pay attention. Fantasy football changes weekly. You have to be paying attention. When things happen, you have to be ready to jump on them. And a lot of times you miss them.
I'd just like to say I cannot believe the shit that Hartz and Ghilani are spewing already early in this episode. It's all about making the moves. Your team was a bunch of guys that were on the junk heap like 5 weeks prior who just went off. Okay, you guys don't have this magic elixir of I make these smart moves.
No,
Give me a break.
Pay attention. You
do
talk
have
to
to pay
Honhart.
attention.
Honhart.
You do have to pay attention.
Honhart.
Everyone pays attention.
I had
Honhart
35
is the
moves.
best at it.
I beg to differ.
He is the
and if you are
best
paying
at it.
attention, they're not doing anything. Fucking Kevin Noon only made 16 moves all last season. Like, come on.
And Honhart's always up there. Always
Gino,
up there.
15 moves.
Okay, he hasn't won in 5 years, but he is always up there because he's paying attention and making moves. He is the first one to know everything that happens.
Is he though? He has the 9th best record in the last 5 years. So is he always up there?
It's
finishes.
Moves.
I'd like to see if moves are correlated to wins.
I'm talking
finishes.
finishes.
I don't think moves are correlated to wins at all. I think that's not the right argument.
Churning.
I'm talking finishes.
Yeah,
it's finishes.
I'm up there.
It's finishes, man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many wins and losses you have. You just proved. It doesn't matter how many wins and losses you have throughout the season. It matters. Well, it's a little bit. You have to get in the playoffs.
A little bit.
It matters about the playoffs. You make the moves throughout the season to ready yourself for the playoffs. We're talking about playoffs.
All I know is I got a lot of 11 other guys' money in my pocket over the last few years.
Boys, we're getting off the rails a little bit. We actually had some pre-scripted questions that we're going to ask not only you, Honey, we're going to ask everyone. And I was going to let Hartz ask his question first. Hartz, you ready to ask your question?
Sure.
Let's roll.
So my question is, what contributing factors do you have that went into your 3 squirrels? What are the main contributing factors? You can give us 1, give us 2, give us 3.
You may give this, you may like verbatim your answer from last week when Ghilani called you out on total bullshit.
Wait, I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be the only one that's
I actually
calling
completely
bullshit
agree with you because that's what it is. I mean, the people that criticize aren't the ones winning the championships now, are they?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
uh,
Pay the fuck attention.
yeah, I mean, like you said, you got to make the moves, you got to pay attention. Hey, the moves you make don't always fucking pay off. I
Right.
signed a lot of shitty free agents. I drafted a lot of shitty players, and I've held on to some of them for way too long. I think some of the things I need to learn are just to like cut bait. I mean, it's an evolving game. I mean, you got to pay attention to the trends of the game, like who's like the target, like the amount of targets players getting. I mean, you just got to pay attention. If you're not paying attention, staying up to date with what's going on, looking at the philosophies of every offense, of the players you want to select and target, like, I'm sorry, but you're going to be the no score mafia forever.
Yep, I agree.
Good answer. I'll go ahead. What
I'm
rule
pumped.
changes would you like to see made for next season? It can be as little or as many as you'd like.
Third wide receiver's got to go. It's such a pain in the ass to try and play a third wide receiver. I mean, what are you playing? So we're playing at least 36 wide receivers a week.
Yep. I think that one's a foregone conclusion that one's empty. I think we.
I mean, I would
get
get rid of defense. I mean, all the rules we've been talking about. I get rid of the defense. I think the defense and kickers are such bullshit. I mean, I don't really think there's any reason to have them.
Okay, let me.
I think I agree with kickers.
Kickers are gone. They've been gone.
Kickers
what
gotta
about
be gone.
if
But
we were
defense-
able to adjust the defensive points? Because I hate the defense too. I hate the defense. I think that the fact that you can get -12 or you can get 50 points from one position is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if we were able to narrow that gap at all, would you consider keeping defense?
I mean, I would keep the defense if it came down to it. The negative points is the killer.
Do you not think there's any strategy going into defense at all?
I think there's strategy going into the defense because you could go going into like a Monday Night Football just having a defense left, and like if some dumbass is winning and they score negative points, you could end up fucking losing. Like I'm fairly certain that's how Andrew didn't get into the playoffs like last year, 2 years ago.
5 of the top 6 defenses last year had at least one negative game.
Right.
Defenses are so matchup dependent, it's ridiculous. And I feel like the fact that you can lose or win a week just based on a defense, a matchup dependent defense.
Yeah, but matchup. But aren't you looking at the matchups?
Totally. But I mean, there's some situations where there's no good matchups to be had, and
I mean,
you can have
it's not even
the
matchup
Steelers
dependent.
defense,
Right,
which is normally 14 weeks of the season. The Steelers defense is a top 3, but the week they play Baltimore, they're not a good defense. They're not a startable defense.
But do you not have the option to look ahead and have a defense ready for those weeks that they're playing?
You do, but then you're wasting bench spots on defenses.
Are you wasting them? Are you wasting them?
100%.
Are you wasting them, or are
Yes.
you keeping it so you don't lose that week? You just said that defenses can lose you a week if you don't pay attention and look ahead, and you play the Steelers defense against the Baltimore Ravens. Then maybe it is going to cost you. So
of anybody in this
is there
league,
no strategy there? I don't know.
There is, and I'll tell you, of anybody in this league, I look at that, I think, more than anybody. I mean, at one point last season, I had 3 defenses rostered, looking ahead for matchups. I picked up a defense in week 3 or 4 just to have in week 15 and 16 because they had great matchups.
Right.
So I understand that part of the game.
Is that not a
I just
strategy?
think it is, but why are you having it? Just doesn't. It's not a good strategy. I think it's a silly part of the league to be rostering that many defenses and to put that much thought in consideration into 1 week matchup that you have to plan for 5 weeks in advance. I would be more than happy to take that part out of fantasy football.
All right.
In my opinion, defense has to stay, and I would say that it's unpredictable just based on. I mean, surely. People were planning in the latter half of the year having the Dolphins, and who I know the Dolphins ended up being a pretty decent offense by the end of the year. And any given Sunday, it's a cliche, but a team can go off, and it's hard to predict. Actually, it's totally unpredictable defense. And I like the strategy part. Surely that's just my opinion, but it's not like anything's guaranteed.
Let me throw a stat at you real quick, and then I'm going to let Hani go because I know
this one's for you.
This
one's for you, Gina.
So in week 1, after week 1, I was absolutely chastised for bidding like $11 on the Patriots defense. Just absolutely chastised. And I lost the bid by $1. Had I won that bid, I would have gone from the last place team to a playoff team.
So
Just
you
based
don't.
on $1 in a defense. And I was the
Right,
last place
think
team.
about this.
I was 4-9.
Do
One
you think that's not a
defense.
strategy?
It's
That
not.
You should have bid one more dollar and got that
Having-
defense that
and
was
here's the
essential
thing.
to your winning
Well,
of the league.
let me tell you the other kicker is my other defense was the Steelers defense, who was the number 2 defense last year. But had I had
Bad
the Patriots,
matchup.
yeah, they had some bad matchups, but they were the number 2 overall defense. Had I had the Patriots defense, I would have gone from 4-9 to 7-6, made the playoffs, whole new season. That
And lost to
should
me
not
because I
happen.
put up record highs in the playoffs last
That
year.
should not happen because I lost a fucking defense. I just
Well-
think there's too much weight that the defenses carry.
That was a
think
was a
it does hold a
special
lot of weight.
defense for the first
Does hold a lot
10
of weight.
weeks of the season. That was a special
Right.
defense,
They were.
certainly. No one
I mean, what,
could have
they were-
predicted that.
top 20 player overall.
Overall,
I
yeah.
predicted,
At least.
I predicted it. That's why I bet it. That's why I bid them, because I knew that they were going to be a
Not
stellar
enough.
defense through the rest of the year. You're right. I didn't bid enough because I didn't think anybody else would be bidding that much on a defense. But my brother beat me.
That's kind of strategy, though. To me.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
me,
the
that
year before it was the
Oh.
Jaguars. I mean, it's just such a volatile position, and I think it's all, yeah, it's got some skill in it, but they're
I
not.
agree. It's very
They're not a
little.
skill player. It's not a skill position. It just drives me nuts that I can win and lose a week because some fucking asshole has New England defense and they picked off Ryan Fitzpatrick 4 times and had 3 pick sixes. Like,
I'll give you another one.
That was a
The
good example of
12th
the New England defense.
Yeah.
They
The
freaking crushed
12th
it for
place
so long, man.
defense last year scored 39% of the points of the first place defense. 39%. 12
Is that
to
good?
1.
Is that good or bad?
That's horrible. That
Yeah,
means
I
that the
wasn't
first
sure.
place the first place player scored 3 times, almost 3 times as many points as the 12th, which is still
But you had
supposedly a
but
starter.
you had the 12th defense. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have had the 12th defense.
Well, no, somebody has to have the 12th defense. There's 12 teams.
Someone has to if you don't get the right defense. That means that
But
you got the
what
wrong
I'm saying
defense,
is,
doesn't
if
it?
you have the top 12 defenses, everybody has one of the top 12 defenses, which
Okay.
hopefully that's the case. The 12th one is scoring 1/3 the points of the first one. That does not
1/3, I guess,
exist in
yeah.
any other position.
Does-
I mean,
okay.
even tight end, it's not even that close.
I feel like quarterbacks probably get close to that. Especially
I
if
don't
you go
think
to,
so.
I don't
especially if
think
you go to
so.
20
No.
Especially if you go to 24 quarterbacks.
I think that
Like
the
we're
difference
proposing.
is
That's another conversation. Hold off on that for 2 seconds.
I think the difference is the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks score substantially more than everybody else, but everybody else is pretty close together. The difference between the 6th quarterback and the 16th quarterback is much smaller than the difference between the
Okay.
1st and the 3rd.
So my problem with the defense is, why are we trying to legislate luck out of an inherently lucky game? Defense is part of the game. We went to 3 wide receivers last year and learned that there's just not really that many great skill position players. To lose a roster spot on something that I feel like adds to the strategy of the game would be a mistake. And ultimately it will be decided by the league, as everything is. But why are we legislating luck out of a lucky game? That's like saying, oh, a touchdown shouldn't decide a game. But where does it
I
end?
can agree with
Where's
that.
it end?
Right, I agree with that.
I mean-
also defense is half, like in normal football, defense is half of the game, right? And defense wins championships. I think that you have to keep defense in there. It's only one position compared to the rest of your whole team, but in real football, it's half of it. So it's already diminished, to a small amount. I don't think you can just eliminate it. It's part of the game. I think you have to keep it. Kicking
I
is
feel
too.
that.
But kicking is like, it's just so sporadic. You just don't
Kicking
even have
sucks.
any. Kicking is just like so ridiculous that it's not even like, it's just super random.
Yeah.
you
You don't
can
even
pick-
want to have a
You
good
can pick
offense for
domes and
kickers.
people, right?
Really.
Sometimes it's not even a good defense.
You need a middling offense that can't get into the red zone.
Right.
It's-
Sometimes it helps
But
if you have
even-
a dome. Sometimes it helps if you have good weather. But there really isn't that. There's no real strategy into it. It's besides getting lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even the same kicker season to season isn't the
Right.
same. I mean, Steven Gostkowski has been one of the best kickers, and he's been one of the worst kickers. It's hard to plan. It's hard to strategize for that. I
Like
like
defense, you can actually strategize
to an
a
extent,
little
yeah.
bit.
I
But
want
kicker,
to
you
keep defenses. I want to keep defenses. I do. I just think we need to narrow the gap a little bit. And I
I
think if
agree.
we take away the yards, because you can get -7
I'm
points
okay with that.
depending on
Yeah.
how many
Yep.
yards you give up.
Yep.
And
I
if
wish
you're
you
giving
just
up
eliminate negatives
450
altogether.
yards, well, but if a team gives up 45 points, 55 points, I mean, you should be
Right.
punished. You should be
Right.
punished for picking a
Should you?
defense that gives up 55 points.
But a normal player, right? You'd have to have like 3 fumbles and score under 20 yards to get negative. And you only
That's
get
true.
1 negative,
That's
right?
true.
You only get 1 negative. For defense, you can get 5 negative that's a big swing. No normal position gets that many negative points. It doesn't matter how bad they play, because like a wide receiver could play terrible. They don't get any catches all day, and they just get a 0.
So is the argument take away all negatives, but are you still giving positive points for points against? But no negative
think
points?
So. I'm okay with it. I just think the negatives are what throw things off, because it doesn't matter. Because okay, all defenses are going to be scoring the same points, but when you throw those negatives in there, it's like it almost seems like that when a defense goes negative, it seems rare. You know, it's just like they had like a really bad day. You know, the offensive team had a really good day and they put up a whole bunch of yards. That doesn't, and just because they put up a whole bunch of yards and they stopped them at the goal line, doesn't mean that they should get negative points.
Exactly, and that's why I want to get rid of the yards thing. I think the
Right.
points, there's something to, but the yards, I feel like if you give up a bunch of yards and give up a field goal at the end of it, that's a win. That's a good thing for the defense, I think.
I can see points negatives.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on from defense, because I want to touch on something that I hopefully we can keep it to maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But Hani, the biggest probably point of contention is 2 quarterback. It's been really pushed hard by one of the commissioners, Ryan Ghilani. It's really supported by Kevin Noon. A couple other folks have offered their opinion. Hani, wanted to give you a chance to let us know how you're feeling about 2 quarterback. Whether you plan on voting for or against. I mean, you don't even have to tell us that, but what's your thoughts on that rule change?
I'm totally against it. I just have no interest in it. I don't know what else there is to say other than that. I know Ghilani harps on the fact that we stay the same, but sometimes that's what makes things great.
Agree.
I don't know. I just like the complaint has come up. You know, how many quarterbacks went down this year? How many backups were playing? I mean, I'm not a fan of the team quarterback either, because if you pick a player and he gets hurt, I mean, that fucking sucks. I mean, I'm sorry,
you're still
but
using
it
the
is what it
backup.
is.
You still have to use the backup.
You're right. But you're not losing a week automatically because your quarterback got hurt in the first quarter.
Right, but that's also part of the fantasy football. So
it's part of it because it is right now, but it doesn't have to be part of it. That's my argument. You can remove certain parts of that ridiculous luck from the game. We're talking about that with defense right now. Fantasy football is an inherently lucky game, but it doesn't have to be as lucky as it is. And I think that the 2 quarterback thing actually kind of closes the skill gap a little bit. Odds are teams aren't going to have the top 2 quarterbacks. They're going to have a good one and a bad one, or a good one and a decent one. And if they have 2 good ones, they're going to lack in the other areas, and the running backs and the receivers. And what I like about it is
you
that
can still use that same argument with a single quarterback and using team quarterback. Like if you're going to use team quarterback to defend your 2 quarterback, well, why wouldn't you just do team quarterback for 1 quarterback, and then you're not worried about losing the week because your quarterback went down?
I honestly, I like that idea too. I I positioned the two-team quarterback idea. No, you're right. You're right. If we're going to do team quarterback, I think it makes more sense to do it in a 2-quarterback system instead of 1. The reason I proposed the team quarterback concept is because there was a lot of pushback about 2 quarterbacks, and there's not going to be enough quarterbacks to go around, and you're going to have to roster backups. Right. So I figured if we're going to do 2 quarterbacks, 2 team quarterbacks makes more sense in that scenario. So my thing is I want to change the drafting so that it's not 10 running backs of the first 12 picks. And I want to differentiate our league from what is out there. I want us to have to come up with our own strategies and our own draft strategies versus just looking at fucking Matthew Berry and all those other yahoos that get paid to read stats. I feel like us making a drastic change like that is going to force our league to do their own research, come up with their own ideas. I love that.
I can see that. That's an interesting point.
I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I will vote. I will accept the results of the vote. I'm confident enough that I will be able to adapt and still beat most of the fucking assholes in this league.
Exactly. I'm not worried about it so much. Is that it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'd really get pissed off. I have to start like David Blau and fucking Aaron Rodgers, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess if it comes down to it, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I think it kind of goes back to the argument of like how we hated 3 wide receiver. We hated 3 wide receiver because it limited the field of good players that you could start, right? That's all a 2 quarterback does is it makes you have. Well, Superflex is a little bit different, and it makes a little more sense than 2 quarterback because you don't have to play that quarterback.
I mean, if you're playing Superflex, why would you not play a fucking quarterback?
Right. That's my second argument is that
you don't have to.
As Superflex is 2 quarterback unless you don't have a second quarterback, right? And my argument is why not make it so you can only have 2 quarterbacks instead of doing the team quarterbacks, have 2 quarterbacks, and then that way the field it's not as limited as if you let an unlimited amount of quarterback pickups because people are just going to pick up quarterbacks. You're starting 2 quarterbacks in a super flex situation. Why wouldn't you stack yourself with 3 quarterbacks? Then there's multiple people in the league that can't even have enough quarterbacks. That way you're crushing half the league by not even letting them start 2 quarterbacks. And in Superflex, you have to start 2 quarterbacks, or else you're done. That's it. Well, you're not going to win that week.
That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
It's because under the scoring that we have right now, you might be right. But if we implemented Superflex,
if you possibly have a flex that you could put in instead of a quarterback, then you're going to win. You're winning the league no matter what. There's no chance.
That's not exactly.
I don't know. I'm with him 100%.
There is zero chance.
True. I'm with him 100%.
Your quarterback's going to score 15 points. You're already out 2 running backs, 2 or 3 running backs, 2 or 3 wide receivers before you get to the super flex because you already have the flex position.
There's assuming that the scoring. Listen to me. You're assuming that the scoring structure would remain the same if we have Superflex, which it would not. If we voted Superflex in, we would close the gap between quarterback and flex points, and that's part of it. That's part of it. We would close the gap. It wouldn't be the same as it was with the quarterback yardage and bonuses and all that, the 6-point touchdowns, and we would, and that would be part of it. What we're talking about is the idea.
But it's also almost impossible to narrow it enough because the quarterback gets the ball every fucking play. Every play the quarterback gets the ball. For you to say that you can narrow it enough to make it that they're even is
you'd almost have to eliminate yards or something.
Yeah, bringing down the touchdowns helps. But you have to completely change the way the quarterback position is scored. But if you make it 2, you can only roster 2, then you're scrambling a little bit. Some people can't play 2 sometimes because there's a bye. It makes it interesting. It makes the strategy.
I like that. I like only being able to roster 2 if it's 2 team quarterbacks.
Yeah,
if it's 2 team quarterbacks. Because if you're only allowed to roster 2, I mean, and one of your guys gets injured,
play your flex player that you're just saying that you have a flex player that can match your quarterback.
In
Your argument is that
in Superflex, not 2 quarterback.
Right,
We're talking about different things.
What do you mean? I'm talking Superflex, right?
Superflex and 2 quarterback are 2 completely different things.
But they're the same because
They're not.
If you're not playing, but they're the same because if you're not playing 2 quarterbacks,
They're not.
Then you lose.
What I'm saying is, if we do Superflex, the scoring changes. If we're doing Superflex, the scoring between quarterbacks and flex players is different than it would be if you're playing 2 quarterbacks. It's different. We would adjust the scoring for flex players to close the gap in a Superflex scenario. In a 2 quarterback or 2 team quarterback scenario, you don't have to do that.
Just a question to just kind of close this subject.
Please.
So if you have 2 quarterbacks,
so debatable.
If 2 quarterbacks, and you're saying you could only roster 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Let's say by some fucking dumb luck, I got Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson on my team. I'm playing both of those guys, but I can only roster 2 of them. When one of them has a bye, I got to drop one of them.
You either play your flex.
Thanks, Honhart.
You either play your You just said a flex.
I mean, I don't want to have to do that.
Glenny, you just said your flex is equal with a quarterback. You're narrowing the gap, right? You're narrowing the gap.
You got to be in the house.
Why can't I play? So why can't I play my flex player in my super flex position?
Are we talking about 2 quarterbacks or Superflex? Because they're 2 completely different things.
We're all talking Superflex.
All right.
2 quarterback is never going to happen. We're all talking Superflex, which is 2 quarterback. I don't understand why you keep going back to this whole, what's the difference?
It's different.
Superflex,
it's different. It's totally different.
That's enough. That's enough.
Superflex is 2 quarterback with an option to play somebody if you can't play them.
2 different modes because obviously I'm surprised that I have to spell this out. 2 quarterback, you have to put a quarterback in the other you have options. But we're going to move off because we're going to talk about this all summer.
This isn't going anywhere.
So we have everyone's opinion right now. We'll talk about it later. Hani, a little bit more lighthearted fare for me. I wanted to know who's your favorite fantasy player of all time that you've had on your roster any given year. I think we all have someone that we just always liked because they had a great year with us. And I'm just wondering who's your favorite player you ever had on a BFFL roster?
Besides Megatron, because you're a fanboy. Go.
Did he ever have Megatron though?
High freak, touchdown scoring speedster.
That's hilarious to hear you say that because I had Tyreek last year and it was the worst decision I ever made. I also had Megatron the year that he had the worst career season. It's just
sucks for you, I guess. I mean,
totally.
Yeah, love Tyreek.
Me too.
Love it when he's electric.
I also what was your answer? I
Chris
missed
Johnson fan.
Killing me ending that quarterback talked it like this. Killing me, Ghilani. Killing me.
I don't want to revisit it, but
I know.
You have to understand that
let it go.
2 quarterback and Superflex are different things, different scoring. That's it.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is 2 quarterback is never going to happen.
Shut your lips.
Honey,
shut him.
Superflex could happen. I'm talking.
We've been talking about
Superflex could happen. 2 quarterback is never going to happen.
You guys are about to be muted if you don't stop.
I thought we weren't talking about 2. I thought we weren't talking about 2 quarterback because 2 quarterback is never going to happen.
I think 2 quarterback is better than Superflex, to be honest. But
Hani, loser punishment. Do you have an opinion on which type of loser punishment you'd like to see implemented?
Whatever's worse, because I'm never gonna have to do it.
Whoa!
Doesn't matter.
No, that's bad because all last year at the draft, every minute I got, I said, Gotti, with your record last year, I'd have been 4-11.
Yep.
And look what happened to me.
You jinxed yourself.
I jinxed myself.
Right, you weren't
now
very
I'm
good
gonna get
last
fucking
year.
12th
You were
place,
close to last.
and I'm probably gonna have to piss in a diaper.
It was Ghilani that gave us last though. So that was
We'll never make a grown
guy
man
that said,
pee in his own diaper.
Another
I
guy-
don't think it's that big a deal.
I don't think it is either. But another guy that said that he would never
Coming
come
from
in
the guy that
last.
actually did pee himself.
Yeah, and it wasn't that big of a deal. It's a super easy punishment. There's a lot more punishments that could have been worse.
The stand-up comedy one.
Sorry.
that's
Talking about a different
absurd.
league. A different league that does have a punishment. Yeah, sorry. But
no one cares about your other league.
No one cares about it.
No,
But
y'all.
pissing in the diaper is the easiest punishment I've ever done for coming in last. I came in last because I sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can. I think it's hard to punish someone in the draft or something in the next season because.
Don't make it continue.
Yeah.
They sucked already.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's how you make it hurt.
Yeah, but a lot of it can't be their fault.
Right. Some of it, there's a lot of luck in fantasy football.
I was second in points. I was second in points this year and was 5-8.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it.
But I also agree you have to have a punishment.
Yeah, we need a punishment. But the thing with the shaming is the league is a little bit spread out. It's difficult for us to be able to do it in a satisfactory, actually shameful way with everybody spread out the way that they are. I mean, we have members in 4 states. I mean,
there's got to be ways we can come up with ideas that doesn't necessarily have to be in person.
How about like you should get a T-shirt printed up and you have to wear it at the draft.
Yeah, but again, I mean, not everybody's going to be at the draft. Like,
is that even a punishment?
I don't know.
A punishment?
Or ring a fucking bell on the corner, street corner.
What's so wrong about having the punishment affect the next season? I mean, you were so bad that you finished last. You finished 12 of 12. Why is it so bad to say you were so bad last year that we're going to punish you a little bit this year? I mean, professional soccer leagues literally relegate teams. They literally kick teams out for being the worst.
That's true.
We're not talking about that. We're just talking about a little jab. You know, maybe you automatically get the last pick in the next year.
Some people want that last pick.
Maybe you pay double buy-in.
Right.
Some people want
the last pick.
Double buy-in is cool.
Never.
I like the making them drink as many games as they lost.
As last pick.
But making them auto pick is just tough. I mean, that's no good. That's not good.
Absurd.
What did I say? Auto pick the first round? That's cool. I like that. I mean, you're not
going
to get a bad pick.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a bad pick auto picking. You're just not going to get your guy.
I'm just saying you'll never get
ESPN.
You'll never get anyone to agree.
Really high on, like last year, like Lev Bell was like a first round pick, and you don't want that. No one wanted him in the first round except
he drafted him at like number 5.
And Ghilani
maybe
early.
No, I didn't. Who, Lev Bell?
Michelin picked Lev Bell.
Lev Bell?
No, I know. I'm just saying. Every year ESPN has guys really high up that you don't want. So if you're auto picked, you're gonna get some guy that you don't want. So and it's just
that's more. That's like you're
going
to
get behind the 8 ball. I mean,
you're going to get a viable player, but you're just not going to have your guy. You're not going to choose the first guy that you want. But it's still
I don't like putting that on ESPN to decide who gets them.
No, not at all. Hani,
that's what I don't like.
Which Squirrel Mafia is going to win next? Do you think?
Let me go back to that. You can set your auto draft presets.
Yeah, but that's not part of your. That's
then
not
what's
part
the
of the
point?
Punishment. You're not gonna let somebody. If it's a punishment, you're gonna let them set their fucking auto pick.
Why not?
Because then
what's the point of it then?
Because you still don't know.
There's no punishment.
Because you still don't know who's going to be picked ahead of you.
You can still make your top 20 pick set up, and it doesn't matter.
You just keep auto setting it. Yeah, that's.
No, you have to do it before the draft. You can't reset it.
Maybe if you do it that way. Let's
move on.
I can see that.
Hani, which No Squirrel Mafia member do you see taking home a squirrel next?
Ooh, man, who do we got?
This is my favorite question.
Who do we got?
Pull out the notes.
See, I can start rattling them off for you if you want. You got Andrew, you got Connor.
Yeah, so I think there's 2, and you just nailed them both. After last year, after the draft, when Connor was done drafting, I thought I had taken over and drafted his team for him because he picked every player I was looking for. I was after Lamar Jackson, Raheem Mostert. I forget some of the other players on his roster, but I had them on my board, just not quite as high, or he fell into the range of the draft where I wasn't able to get those players.
So basically, you would have gotten one more win if you had Connor's team.
Yeah, but that one more win might have gotten me into the playoffs.
True.
Wouldn't have. 6-7.
What was I?
I'd have been real close.
7-6.
Yeah. But
I love that.
There were 7 teams that were 7-6 or better. You would have been 6-7, 8th best team.
I mean, I feel like if I'd have had Lamar Jackson on my team, I'd have been first in points by. It wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't have even been close.
Yeah, which is.
I had Russell Wilson though, so it might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
And then
Yeah,
Andrew,
Pretty true though.
Andrew's right there though. He started the world on fire last season and then just fucking blew ass for the
Connor was
second
also second to
half.
last in points last year too.
I mean, yeah, if I'd have drafted his team, I'd have been sitting in his spot too. So
Honhart, do you have the stats on how many moves? I know you did some research on who made some moves and stuff. What did Andrew do in moves? Just curious.
Andrew had
27 moves.
Yep, 27 moves.
Where's that?
8.
He's right in the
Eighth in
bottom
moves.
tier, yeah.
Started
Gotti
off so
had the
hot.
most.
Started
Gotti
off
had
so
the most,
hot,
43.
but only made 28 moves.
He made a poor
Weird.
trade. He made a poor trade. I
Correlations.
forget what it was. He traded like Devontae Freeman or something too.
You're right.
Or
Past
Ford
5
was-
seasons, Andrew has the 6th best record, 32-32-1, and even 500.
But it doesn't matter if you can't get to the playoffs.
He had a plus 9 point win differential or point differential on his on the season.
Interesting.
Didn't correlate. I don't know. I think it's a coin flip between those two. Corey's never going to win because Ghilani says after draft every year he's a fucking
Sorry,
A+ team.
The Ghilani jigs.
Machilin is just like destined to never win. I don't know.
Machilin
already
has the
mentally checked
third
out.
best record, regular season record, over the last
Amazing.
5 seasons. The third best. He's 36-28-1 over the last 3 seasons. The only
thought
people with better records than him are Hartz with 2 championships and the blindest one, Noon, 39-28-0. The best record in BFFL over the last 5 seasons hasn't even sniffed it.
No, I don't even think he's been in the playoffs in like the last 5 years, has he?
I mean, he has to have. I mean, he's averaging.
He's never made it to a final, but he's been
averaging
in the playoffs
almost
plenty
8
of
wins
times.
a season.
Did Andrew make it to the playoffs this year? Did he get in?
I thought you said he was kept out at the very end.
Last year, I know he got kept out by Gino on like a defensive play.
Yeah.
Andrew did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I was gonna say he didn't make the playoffs again. So
Andrew was the number 7 seed.
he talks so much shit all season long, and then he never fucking does a damn thing. He really needs to pick up his game here a little bit. He might as well take them tears and just throw them in the pool before the draft next year.
But if you want to go back to Machilin, though, it's tough when you're a born loser to expect to win a squirrel. You know, I just gonna throw that out there.
It's
I
funny.
can see him chilling, winning a squirrel. I
know
mean,
he doesn't-
I could
I
see
know
him
he doesn't
winning
watch
for
these.
sure.
I know he doesn't watch these because he's not in the group me, but you know, I figured I'd throw that out there.
The blindest of them already won one. Fucking Ryan Gotti.
Oh my gosh. Over
Wow,
the
you're
last
getting
5 seasons, let's talk about this. Over the last 5 seasons, Gotti is 27-38. That means he's averaging 5 wins a season, a little bit over 5 wins a season, and he has a squirrel. I honestly think that he's only finished above 10th one time, and he won.
He caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
I'm just glad that I'm not being proclaimed the luckiest of the squirrel winners.
You are luckiest in some ways.
I mean, I've won 2. It gets a little.
But
I mean,
Honey, this is kind of a question on the
it's
second
blind.
side of the coin here. But
Not so
who has
much.
the most approved, do you think, going into 2020? And it doesn't have to be a No Squirrel Mafia member. It can be anyone in the league. But
Oh,
Was that the most
who you looking at?
prove.
most to improve?
Most
Most
approved.
to prove.
No, most to prove.
I think it's between myself and the other 2-time winner right here. I mean,
Wow. Okay.
you gotta stake the claim, man.
Interesting. Tell me more.
I mean, I feel like
you mean since I've won
I'm-
twice since you've
Yeah.
won your last?
No, that's not true. You guys constantly throw that asterisk out for some reason because of the DraftKings fucking tiebreaker. Yeah, I'll admit, I
Oh,
lost the
come
DraftKings
on.
tiebreaker.
Let me
but
go
hey,
on record.
That asterisk
Oh,
is
come
there.
on.
It's there.
Any metric that we would have gone by that season, I would have won. If we would have done an extra week, if we would have done total playoff points, head-to-head record, overall points, any metric that we would have gone, I would have won that year. And it was voted on by the league.
But the
And-
asterisk
and
is still
I
there.
Let me say something real quick.
Absolutely hammered.
Let me say something real
At
quick.
11:59 on New Year's Eve when I submitted that DraftKings lineup, and I still won.
I was there. I was in Ghilani.
as
You were
well.
saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't
Me
do
too.
that.
And guess
Me
what?
too.
The guy that you told me I shouldn't do had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Woo!
But the best part is that, right, is that in Ghilani fashion, his championship does kind of have an asterisk.
It's different from the others. It doesn't mean
kind of
it's
funny.
worse.
Kind of funny. Kind of
Little
funny.
Johnny's
that it.
different.
I
He's
think
not
it is
A
bad.
little
He's
bit
just
funny
different.
that it worked out that way. Just a little bit funny. Just a little bit funny that it worked out that way.
So it's interesting.
Winner.
Hani's saying, so he's looking in 2020 to see
couldn't
a
happen to a better
number
person.
one BFFLer come. So he's saying he has 3, Hartz has 2. He wants to see someone establish permanent dominance in this league. So as opposed to saying, hey, I want to see Corey come out
Back
from
to
the basement,
backs
I want
is
to see this,
tough.
that. Hani's got a winner's mentality. He's saying, who's going to prove himself as the GOAT of this league?
You're telling me, Hani, that if I win,
fail.
are you telling me, Hani, if I win this year, you're calling me the GOAT?
Hell
No,
no.
I'm not calling you to go.
Is that
I'll
what-
have a
is that what
win-
we're saying?
I'll have a win and an asterisk on you still.
Is that what we're saying?
I still got a
No,
win and an
you
asterisk
won't
on
have-
you.
No, just
son.
an
You won't have-
asterisk. He has 3.
You
You have
won't.
3.
You won't have a win. You won't have
No,
a
I
win.
currently have a win and an asterisk.
Currently do.
Currently.
But I'm saying
Currently.
if I win next year and I repeat, you're giving me.
God, after watching the last couple of years, the odds are so far out there that I don't even think there's a chance.
There's
Hartz,
no
but
chance
you
in
got
hell
a
that
lot
you
of weight.
repeat.
You got a lot of weight on your shoulders this year.
Yeah, your luck has run out, Hartz.
Mm.
I can promise that.
Man, this thing
I don't
fits nice. This thing fits nice.
I put it on myself to try and win every year. Like
Yeah.
this season drove me absolutely mind fucking boggling crazy because I was killing it in points and just getting crushed in points against.
The
It was
best part
so
about fantasy.
so infuriating. You
So-
know, it's bad enough being a Lions fan and having to watch them lose every week and then just fucking dominate in fantasy football. Still,
That's by
lo-
choice.
lose,
You're a Lions
but
fan by
lose.
choice.
I'm a glutton
That
for
is true.
punishment.
Also true.
Honey, what you said
Also true.
actually lends into the next question. How are you preparing for 2020? Are you changing your approach? Are you planning on doing more of the same? That's the question I want to know. Is
I hope
you
he's
had
changing.
a rough
Jesus.
2019. Well, you hope he's changing, but what he's saying is he
Couldn't
had
get any worse than
second
last
most
year.
points. So
Just-
are you
yeah, but
changing
he's
your
still
approach? Is
5-8.
it more of the same? What are you doing preparing for 2020?
You know, every year I jot down a couple notes of things that I've learned from this season, and I try to implement them into next year. I've already got a couple things written down that I'm going to change.
Give us one. Give us
Let's
one.
hear him. Let's hear
no,
him.
Give us
no,
one.
No,
Just one. Just
no.
one. Just one. Delaney's asking for them all. I'm
Just
asking
hear
for
one.
one.
Yeah, I
I'm
said
asking
just
for
one.
one.
Let's hear one.
Just one. Just one.
A lot of times I tend to hang on to players that I draft
yep.
too long.
Yep.
That's
committed
one thing
to
I
the
need,
draft,
I, need,
yep.
I need to learn.
That
And
emotional
someti-
attachment.
Yeah.
You know who's
and
the king of that?
Sometimes
who's
I
the
give up
king
too
of that?
quickly.
Is
Noon.
Machillin. No,
Yeah.
Machillin. Machillin is
is
so scared to make a move. He drafts this team. In every sport, he drafts this team, and he's so scared to make a move.
Yep.
And he always gets this close, but never makes the move to
I
push him
actually
over
agree
the
with that.
edge.
I think
It
Noon's one of
worked.
those two. No.
It works both ways with me because I'll either let go of a guy too early or I'll hang on to a guy too long. Like this year, I hung on to that motherfucker from the Ravens, Justice Hill, almost the
Yeah.
entire fucking season, just waiting and waiting. And then last year, I drafted Nick Chubb, and then I
Lot of
dropped
early
him after
talk.
like week 4, and then he does shit, and then like scores, has like 1,600 yards after like week 5. It's
Yep.
not that much, but fucking absurd. So
You have
those are the things
Yep.
I work on.
You have to distance yourself a little bit from those early projections.
Take the emotion out of it. You can't get
Yeah.
emotionally attached to players, and it's kind of difficult to do that.
I don't draft a
Very
player I
difficult.
don't like. Won't do it. If
Me
I don't-
too.
He could be a great player. He could be a great player. He could be a great player, and I don't think he's good. I won't draft him. Like I fucking
Give me an
hate
example.
Amari
Yeah,
Cooper.
what
I'm
defines-
never gonna draft Amari Cooper.
100%.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's been the best receiver on his team 1 year in his entire
Only
career.
once. That was this year, right? This year, right?
I never
Yeah,
want
I
to.
mean, he was in Oakland, so I mean,
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough when you go from Oakland. You finally get into a good situation. It
Yeah,
kinda
but
makes
Michael
sense,
Crabtree did way better than he did in Oakland.
But it depends. But every player is not the same. It depends on your situation.
Michael Crabtree in
There's
the
been-
league anymore.
I don't
I
even
don't
know.
think
But
so. No, he he played for the Ravens last year? Or was that 2 years ago?
I love it when
But
a team snatches his fucking necklace off of him.
I can't drop any actual names, but there's plenty of players that necessarily weren't good on one team, but come in and make an impact on a different team. It just depends on the
Can you say
situation.
any names?
So-
Do you not know any names? You just
I
not
don't-
really violent
I can't.
names.
I can't think of any names right now. But like just studying fantasy football, it happens.
It does. Yeah, I mean, but
I mean,
don't
what are
think
you
it
guys
happens
doing
that
different
often.
this year? What are you guys doing this year? I mean, to prepare.
I have a.
I gave you a nugget.
Yep.
What's one thing you guys learned?
So really, all I do is I follow a podcast. I pay attention to the weekly news. Kind of pay attention to what they're thinking. You know, I try to surround myself with people because I know that I don't know fantasy football. Like me personally, I don't know the fantasy football. I know that there's experts out there that do. So I try to surround myself with experts that know, and Ghilani is not one of them. But what I do is I try to
Mr. Last Place trying to hype himself up because he
Right.
won
Right.
once.
no,
won
all
one
I'm
time.
saying is this is my exact
Weird.
argument for the two quarterback
Asterisk
league.
event. Come
Because
on.
you're going off strategies that other people made
No,
for
no,
you.
no, no, no,
Think
no,
for
no.
yourself.
No. It's not strategy. It's not strategy I get from other people. It is information that I'm gathering from other people. You do all your research?
Yeah.
You do it all. So you're telling me you go,
Grind to the
you
tape.
sit. Time out. You sit at these training camps and you get your own information?
I don't sit at the training
You're
camps,
telling
but I
me-
watch every single game every single week. I
You
have
watch
the
every
red
single
zone.
game every single week?
Fuck yeah, dude. I have the red zone. I have all the games up at the same time.
You're
I
watching
watch
the
every
red
single game.
zone. That's not watching every game every week.
No,
Are
not
you
the red
nuts?
zone. What's the
What
one
are
that
you
has like
nuts?
the 8 boxes on DirecTV?
I am
You know what I'm talking about.
I am taking everyone that watches every single game, not watches Red Zone. I'm
You're
taking
taking
everyone that
other
watches.
people's opinions. You're taking
And
other people's opinions.
but
and
I mean,
you're-
everyone does that,
but
though.
of
I mean-
stats.
yeah, but
of
what I'm saying
stats-
is,
of
let's-
stats that they're gathering from watching football. I'm not taking these. These are people that are engulfing themselves into fantasy football. I don't have the time to do that. Fuck that. You're telling
those
me
guys
that
that
I
are
should be out
engulfing
there.
themselves into fantasy football don't know anything more than you do. They don't.
They
They
got
don't.
logarithms.
They're going off of the same stats that you have access to. They're using the same eyes that you do.
Right.
Matthew
But
Berry
they
doesn't
put him
know
into a
anything
place
more
that
about
I
fantasy
can
football
accept
than
them.
you do. He just doesn't.
But they're
I'm
putting them
100%
into-
positive other
they're
people
putting them in-
watched the Buffalo Bills more than I did last year.
They're putting them
mean-
into a place where I can absorb the information. I don't need to watch everything. I need somebody that's going to watch everything and give me the information.
No, I mean, I watch a lot of football, but I read a shit ton of like football news and like
The
a
news.
lot of like fantasy football
All
websites
about
and
the
Twitter.
news.
Like that's everything. I mean, everything. I'm looking at everything.
Everything.
How has that
Like-
worked out for you over the past 6 seasons?
I mean,
I have
outside of
two championships.
No, I'm talking to Honhart.
All right. Well, if you're asking me, I have 2 championships.
I mean, I feel like you keep trying to knock me down here because I haven't won the
Right.
fucking championship. Like,
right.
there's only one winner a year, dude. Like,
No, you're right.
Like-
All right, Ghilani, how are you preparing in 2020?
yeah, how are you preparing, Lanny?
Yeah. Tell me how you're
Grinding
going
the
out there
fucking
without
tape
using
out there in
any
Colorado?
reference. Tell me how you're going out there and winning this. Oh wait,
I
you
am
haven't won
not-
yet.
I am not.
You haven't technically won yet. This is an asterisk.
I
I'm
am
gonna get you
not
a Red Hot Chili
getting
Peppers.
attached to a player this year. I'm picking the best available player by all the
okay.
metrics, and I'm not going in
Who's metrics?
targeting certain
Yours?
players.
That's huge. That's huge.
I went in last year and I said I love Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill
Are you-
is the best wide receiver out there. He is. He
cost
absolutely
you.
is.
And that
But it
cost you.
fucked me. It got me.
He's
I
not the
lost
best.
because
He's in the
of
best
I mean,
situation.
only-
that. No, he's the
I
best.
mean,
He's the best
he
out
got
there. He's the
hurt.
best
That's what I'm saying.
fantasy
Got hurt.
receiver out there. He's the best out there is.
But what Honhart is saying is, what are you using? Like, okay, yeah, you think that, but you didn't just pull that out of
No.
nowhere.
I mean,
you
I
pulled
feel
that out
like
of somewhere.
Nobody thinks that Tyreek Hill is the best pound for pound wide receiver in fantasy football. Everybody always has DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and Michael Thomas ranked ahead of him.
Thomas is
And
pretty fucking good,
and those guys are fucking
Michael
great.
Thomas
They're
smashed
amazing.
projections
Pound for
last
pound,
year, and he was a
they're
top
amazing.
10 pick.
They're better.
They're
I love
not. When
Tyreek
Tyreek
Hill,
Hill is playing, when Tyreek Hill plays, when Tyreek Hill is healthy, he averages more points per game than anybody else, hands down.
But pound
It's not even
for
close.
pound,
A lot of
he's
the
a
reasons
small, light wide receiver.
a lot of the reasons I was high scoring in the league is because I had fucking Tyreek Hill on my team.
Tyreek Hill wins you weeks.
Tyreek
Hill-
those
He does.
players.
Tyreek Hill puts up more 30-point weeks than any other wide receiver there is. Michael Thomas gets you the consistency, but the thing is you can build your team around either one. You can have the consistency somewhere else, and you can have that big hitter, but you need one big hitter. You need a guy that can win you a week, and Tyreek Hill is that guy more than any other wide receiver in the game, hands down, bar none.
I don't know if you necessarily need one that
I
wins you a
love,
week.
All right.
love Tyreek Hill.
So
I do too.
Before we wrap
I'm
up,
a big Tyreek Hill fan too.
my 2020 strategy is I truly feel like I mock and do research more than anyone else in the league, or at least on par with anyone else in the league. And the stats bear out that I'm shit at whatever I'm doing is wrong. So if Pat Mahar is showing up to the draft not doing any research, he's just having a carefree summer. He's not thinking about anything. He's not thinking of average depth of target. He doesn't give a shit about any of that. He's showing up. And he's drafting great teams. Then I need to chill out. I don't need to do 150 mock drafts this summer. That's what
I don't agree.
But
2 years
but I
ago
don't
when
agree.
Pat won, he was the only person that was actually there when the sun hit the pool at the draft. Me and Pat were shit-faced by 10:30, and he won that league that year. So I think there's something to be said about just going with your gut, taking the emotion and the thought out of it, and just fucking rolling. I like that, Connor.
Did Pat pick first though? Did he get Saquon
No.
first?
No, he didn't pick first.
So he lucked it. Basically
you
lucked
picked
in
first
Saquon.
last year, mate.
No, I'm talking
No,
about
this was 2
Um,
seasons ago. Two
Yeah,
seasons ago.
we're talking 2 seasons.
No.
Ricky picked first, I think, because he had Lesbell,
But did
and he didn't play a season.
Pat
That was a
get-
while ago, I think. That was 3. Was that 2 years ago?
Last year, right? This is his
did
first
Pat
year
get
back with the
Saquon?
Jets. Yeah, it was
Did
last
Pat
year.
get Saquon with his first pick though, or did he give him the
Yeah,
second
like
pick?
4 or 5.
Did he?
Pick 4 or
Okay.
5.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
so
pretty good.
That's right. I do
So
remember that.
Saquon's-
He did pick
Saquon's
Le'Veon
won-
ahead of him.
Because I
Saquon
picked
has
Todd
won 2
Gurley.
years in a row. Just let
All
that
right.
know- let it be known.
boys, we're running pretty late. I want to give everyone a chance for final thoughts. Ryan Hartz, you have anything you want to say?
I think we could be, man. See, there's not really that much that I want to touch on besides the 2 quarterback super flex thing. And the super flex thing is basically 2 quarterbacks. And anytime I'm ever talking about 2 quarterback, I'm really talking about super flex, because if you're not playing 2 quarterbacks, you're lost. You have lost.
Okay.
Let's try to change this league. If we are going to go to the 2 super flex, the 2 quarterback, that we need to make sure that we make it a limit of 2 quarterbacks, and that you can play 2 quarterbacks, but if situations happen, that you aren't playing 2 quarterbacks if the situation doesn't work, and leave everybody else a situation where they can have a good second quarterback.
Thank you for sharing.
Honhart.
Ryan Ghilani.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to
Glenn.
say thank you to Ryan Honhart for being our guest today. The first
It's amazing.
Meet Your League guest, the 3rd commissioner, the 3rd person of the triumvirate that we have implemented here in this league. So happy to have you. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I have no idea who the guest is going to be next week, but I can guarantee
Ryan
you that they
fucking
will
Gotti.
not be nearly
sure
as decorated
He
or
won't
as
be.
apt a
Ryan
player
Gotti.
as Ryan Honhart. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your presence.
Hey, I thank you guys for having me on. All I can say is I'm going to continue to bring the fucking heat. So bring your fucking A game, guys.
We can't wait. And
If I had to nominate one guest for next week, I would pick.
That's a great question. Who would you bring
let's
on next
see.
week,
Who
Honhart?
would you
I
bring
would-
on next week?
I
Let's
would
hear it.
bring Gino on next week. I
Oh!
think.
Why? Why would you bring Gino on
I don't know
next
if
week?
the
like
pod
that.
is
I
ready
like
for
that.
Gino.
I think the pod
the
is
world's
ready for Gino.
But here's the question.
Yeah.
Can Gino sit down and record a pod for 45 minutes to an hour? He's going to have his phone. He's going to be recording with his phone, walking back and forth
Why-
in circles around his kitchen.
Why
while
can't
we
he
try to
walk
record.
around? Why can't we stay true to the person and let him walk around?
Exactly. That's part of it. That's his personality. Let
I
him
would
be who he
say
is.
Gino or Pat.
Yeah, maybe Pat because he's a recent winner.
He's a
Maybe,
winner.
I don't know.
And just housekeeping, we're going to be recording during the off season every 2 weeks. So next
Every
pod
2
is going to be 2 weeks from Thursday, and we'll be back at you then. Guys, thanks so much for being here tonight. Had a blast. You guys are all insane, but that's what the people are paying big bucks for.
Do we want to give Honhart any final words?
Thought he just did. Honey, anything else?
He got a lot of shit on that first one.
No.
Here he had his chance.
I
Screw
don't
him.
really have anything else to say. Ghilani
All
keeps
right.
trying to talk shit, but we'll just
Ghilani
keep it
talk
rolling,
shit.
dude.
What do you
12th
mean?
Place.
Ghilani.
Congratulations.
I just donated my time here to thanking you for being a guest. So fuck you, man.
All right, boys. See you next week.
Peace, guys.
All right.
Hey,
Deuces.
Peace.
thanks everyone. Take it easy.
Yeah.